Hello, everybody, and welcome to Qubit Tensor Labs Live. We are coming in hot from Boulder, Colorado. Turns out they're building some phone booths in the quantum incubator. So we shot down to a collaborator's space in another spot of Boulder, and we're taking it from a different office today. So hopefully we go smooth. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. We're really happy to have you. We've got a lot of really cool updates for today, as always. So let's dive right into it. As always, the usual disclaimers. These are ideas, not promises. We don't give any investment or legal advice. Uh, you know, we appreciate all the work you guys have been doing to use this content for good and not for evil, and avoiding the temptation to weaponize it and use it out of context. And if you agree to do that going on, then we're all good and let's keep rolling. Okay, so today, as always, we've got some tech support stuff. So we've been going kind of as a recurring theme on this topic of fairness. We'll hit on that a little bit more today. If you follow the subnet on Discord, you know that in the recent days, there's been a little bit of conversation about circuit timing. And so we'll talk just a little bit about that. And then cool news, we've got big updates on telemetry. I know we had talked about Grafana a little bit ago. We'll talk about a different direction that we're going, which is actually way sicker. And I'll look forward to showing that to you guys. On the R&D front, we've got some really exciting stuff going. You're right on the cusp of Shore's launch with us today. So we're going to give you some updates on the timing on that and what to expect in that branch. We'll also talk a little bit more, kind of continue to build the vision for what phase 2 of Subnet 63 looks like. I know we talked a little bit about that the last time we talked, but we'll go just a little bit deeper on that again. In Open Quantum, oh my gosh, it is getting so close. So we'll talk about updates on that and a little bit about how we're going to launch Open Quantum. And then we'll go into community and market. We're going to talk a little bit about some quantum events that we just did recently since the last time we talked, and some of the ones that we'll be doing in the near future. We'll also talk about BitTensor touchpoints with the community there, and we'll talk about just general sentiment from the community. So without further ado, we'll drill into it. And as always, normally I've had Sure Shot, Ryan, and Bongo Cat Feynman. Bongo Cat's not here because we don't have any deep quantum topics today, but Sure Shot's here because we've got a lot of updates on the code for the subnets. And so, Ryan, I'll hand it over to you to talk about fairness.
Yeah, recently we've made adjustments regarding minor score calculation and immunity period to try to support fairness. When new miners show up, they immediately start spending money on compute, but their earnings were scored based upon a 48-hour window, putting them at a disadvantage. Um, Immunity period had to be higher due to the scoring and the number of peak challenges being generated before the performance enhancements. Longer immunity period also means more immune miners cutting into the good miners, including good new miners as well. So now, we're trying to balance incentive based upon the time alive rather than the full 48-hour period. That way, it tries to introduce some fairness for new miners. And then we also reduced the immunity period to 36 hours. There should be fewer immune miners cutting into less good miners, and it's a plenty of time to establish yourself, especially with the changes on the scoring.
Yeah, sweet. So, I'm just going to recap that, and I'm going to grab the slides here and go back a couple slides so that you can, repeat it to make sure I'm totally grasping it. So in the old model, essentially, the miners all get judged based on how they performed over the course of the last, call it 48 hours. And so what you're showing here in this chart is that, the new miner is sort of like ranked really low because he can only have done a little bit in the last 48 hours, where he's competing against people that have been executing literally for 48 hours. Cool. And then here in this new model, we start ranking right away. So how does that work? How do we start ranking them, like getting them up to the rank right away?
Yeah. there's actually a small period where we don't score because I guess you could say the denominator is too small, and could cause some math issues at that point. But after that period, based upon the circuit timing and how quickly they come out, you should be start to get circuits fairly quickly in the new model. We'll talk a little bit more about the timing and stuff like that later, but it should be a pretty healthy amount of circuits in the first few hours, therefore allowing you to establish yourself and then be ranked based upon the difficulty and the scoring. And I know with peaked circuits right now kind of being capped at 39 and everyone being at 39, there's not a whole lot of diversity there. And same with HSTAB, but as we introduce shores and potentially other changes to peaked, it'll become more obvious who the good ones are and who the bad ones are. So
Nice. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Good recap. Yeah. Thanks for that. And then, yeah. And then, so it used to be like a 50-hour approximately
right,
immunity period.
yep,
And what are we down to now then? I think like, it was like
36.
38, 36, something like
I
that.
think
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's around yeah, I think it's around 36 or 38. Yeah, I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Which, actually has a pretty substantial, you know, lowers that bar pretty substantially in terms of the deregged zone. So that's
Right.
super cool. Yeah, so you talked about some other things. You talked about the circuit timing thing. Do you want to hit that, or do you want me to hit that?
Yeah, I could chat about it here. Yeah, we're gonna be a little bit light on the details. The community has noticed, circuits have slowed down a bit. I'll just say, I think we're on it. We're actively validating our theory. Um, the we're gonna new telemetry and Shores branch will help us confirm our theory. I think so. We'll try to share more details when we can, but we do notice that the peak generation has been slower than what it should be and what it has been in the past couple of weeks. So
Yeah, sounds good. And I appreciate I appreciate the patience from the miners as we deal with this. We do think we know what this is, and we do think that this is I wouldn't exactly call it an exploit, but I think it is somebody participating in the ecosystem, sort of intentionally slowing things down. Because actually, if you look at like how a miner operates here, like there's actually a better ecosystem in theory from a cost perspective for a miner if they can like slow down the whole ecosystem of circuits that are being generated, because it's like the emission stays the same, or regardless of how many circuits come out. And so if you can just generate fewer, you can compute less time, right? Which is it's an interesting thing. I always appreciate like the creativity from the community here.
yeah,
Cool.
it's
Cool.
always a challenge.
Totally. Yeah. All right. We would love to steer all innovation towards making quantum amazing and better, but we appreciate the creativity when innovation is applied to find different ways to make more money too. Yeah, and then okay, and then telemetry. So, man, I would love to talk about this, but I know that this is your baby, so I'm not going to steal any of your thunder. You take it, Ryan.
Yeah, so fortunately we finally have an update on telemetry. We've been able to come up with a cost-effective solution that we think we could have all the validators participate in. You know, uh, just to show you a little just sample mock-up here of some of the information. We're going to collect information and be able to share that information on max difficulty requested from miners, solutions per 24-hour period, and simple filtering to find the information that you need. And then from the validator side, like circuits generated, circuits verified, heartbeat and version to make sure things are up and running. So you could go yell at people if, it appears that their validator is down, that type of thing. Getting more visibility for the whole community. And then, we could always use suggestions and we'll take them and try to run with them if we can. And some things are just unobtainium. But yeah, well, hopefully we could start to bring some usefulness in terms of uh, this information to the community.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like, so for a miner to do this, you're going to be able to jump in here and see like where the bar is from the other miners, because without this layer of information, you can see how you're ranking compared to other miners, but it's really hard to like ascertain like, are they doing more circuits than me? Are they doing harder circuits than me? What types of circuits are they doing harder than me. And so you can sort of see like, how you're performing relative to the pack and then adjust your strategy. You can also check, and it's not in the mock-up here, but there's a miners section and a validator section. So you can also see how the validators are performing. So, when you have some of these questions about like, oh, the circuit rate is changing, you know, is that, am I seeing a weird problem? Is it a problem specific to a given validator? You can actually check it out on the dashboard and see how the validators are performing, see which ones have updated code, which ones haven't, etc. Now, the little visual here is a mock, but it's like, sorry, mocked data plugged into the real UI, because the data that we have right now is on testnet, but this will go out with the Shores branch. So this will be essentially, well, we'll announce the Shores date in just a minute. But this will be out really soon for everybody. Cool. Continuing on, Shores updates. All right. So yeah, we originally, said this paper was coming when we were on novelty search. We've been talking about it for a while as we've been going with it. The Shores branch is live now. So if you guys want to go check it out, if you're a miner, you're going to need to do some updates to make sure your synapses are compatible. But go check it out. It is ready for you guys in the public repo. The Shores branch is going to include not only this new Shores challenge, which is freaking awesome. It's going to have all the the miner and the validator code, but this branch will also add telemetry, and so that telemetry will be viewable on qbttensorlabs.com as soon as we launch it. There's also some small adjustments that are being made to kind of like play with the circuit gen time root cause, but all this code will go live this Monday, October 20th, and the intention is to put it out bright and early US time on Mondays. Be ready for it. Don't get caught flat-footed on this one. We are good to go. And yeah, in case anybody doesn't remember the context of Shores, Shores is essentially the algorithm that Peter Shor published in 1994 that essentially sparked all the major investment in quantum computing, because it essentially has the promise to break RSA encryption, with properly sized quantum computer. And so we're super excited to have this challenge running. And this one, you're going to be running a version of Shores that we are generating the circuit for, and we're going to be verifying that you've executed it faithfully. But as we start talking about the transition into the next generation of 63, we've got even bigger plans for what we want to do with this space. So maybe we'll talk just a little bit about phase 2 of 63. We've been using the analogy of quantum computing. Subnet 48, which is getting closer and closer to launch every day, is sort of the shoots for quantum. And Quantum Innovate is going to be working towards this, ridges for quantum. And so I think everybody kind of understands the story with 48, but we're going to keep continuing to release more on the vision for 63, which we'll actually be getting to really quickly after we launch Open Quantum. And so last Qubit Tensor Labs, we talked about this idea that we're going to preemptively be starting to turn some of the emission and go from the challenges that we currently have today and start reserving it for the prize pools for kind of the next generation of this. And so I wanted to talk about what that actually is probably going to look like. Again, this is in the ideas, not promises category, but this is, starting to become a fairly codified idea within our organization. So for each of the challenges in this new world of 63, we're essentially going to break problems down into 3 types of pools. There's what we call the operational pool. The operational pool is an award that always goes to the top performer on a challenge. So if you grab the top spot for one of our challenges until you get knocked out of first place, you're making this operational pool. That pool will just be a very small subset of the total miner emission. And so the leftover miner emission will fill these other pools. These other pools are unlocked by achieving major accomplishments. And so the next layer is what we're calling these milestone pools. This aims to produce awards that can be won. They're very much are accomplishable incremental steps. Essentially, we'll see things get closer and closer until somebody hits the milestone and unlocks that reward pool. These numbers are going to be, call it like $10,000 to $50,000 type reward pools, depending on subnet performance. But then on top of that, we're also going to have these grand prize pools. So as the milestone pools are full, the alpha will start accumulating in these grand prize pools, which are sort of more for these unbelievable accomplishments. So you can think about these as things that are sort of believed to be possible, but people actually don't know how we're going to achieve them yet. And I mean, there we're talking about 100,000 to $1 million prizes, again, depending on subnet pool. The cool thing about this is that that type of prize attracts a huge amount of interest from the industry and from media, which is really cool. Now, once those pools fill, then any additional emission that isn't going into filling one of these pools gets burnt. And so the cool thing is, I think if you're like if you are a miner, this is awesome because if I can win the top spot and just collect the operational pool over and over again, I'm essentially making more cash than I'd make being one of the top quantum developers at a quantum computing company. If I can unlock milestone pools, we're talking about fairly significant awards. And if I can unlock a grand prize pool, I'm talking about kind of life-changing money for people. And so, we think it's going to be a really big approach. If I'm a DTAO investor and I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, well, that's pretty cool because it's going to reduce miner sell pressure because there will be a lot more alpha locked up in these, milestone pools and grand prize pools, which helps from a tokenomics perspective. Now, that started at 10%, and that's where it was the last time we did Qubit Tensor Labs when we sort of said we're going to slowly start increasing this. That is now 15%, and that will continue to increase as we start to prepare for this transition and start to fill those pools. Oh, and again, yeah, just to recap, I guess, the goals of that are really systematically reducing miner sell pressure, reducing the amount of, increasing the amount of alpha that's locked up in these prize pools, creating these massive prize pools to really drive attention from the market and from outside media. And, if people actually unlock these, when they unlock these, those will be even bigger events. I mean, you can imagine those being covered by like Wired and stuff like that, right? Now, the really cool thing, if you're looking ahead, and this is probably a topic for a future Qubit Tensor Labs Live, if the community sort of asks for it, is how that IP that's generated becomes licensable IP and becomes revenue, and sort of the strategy for crowdsourcing the creation of new IP that will actually accelerate quantum computing in a fairly substantial way. All right. That was 63. Let's spend some time on 48. We're going to go through open quantum updates. So again, we showed this view the last time we had a Qubit Tensor Labs Live and sort of said, hey, we're going to be in progress for a little while. And so, we need a deeper click. You will notice that the subnet code has moved to in test, which should be pretty telling in terms of how close we're getting to putting real freaking quantum computers on BitTensor. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail of where we're at for the in progress sections. So on that subnet code, like I say, we're essentially in test. We haven't deployed to testnet yet. We're doing some polish before we, make the GitHub public so that that code actually can be deployed to testnet, but that is coming fast. Once we do that, we still need to clean up some documentation on that too. We haven't done any of like the readmes and stuff like that. That's always the stuff that we save for last because, I don't know, developers. The Open Quantum API making massive progress. Like we said, telemetry. In fact, the telemetry that we're going to be showing you guys on 63 is actually Open Quantum telemetry. So we actually have a subsection of Open Quantum live on production today, running all the telemetry stuff. We've also brought it to full end-to-end testing. So we're now running jobs on quantum computers, getting the results back, and being able to see those results both in the API and in the website. We've deployed a dev environment hidden behind a firewall on our side. And as soon as we get testnet out, we're going to connect dev up to testnet. So really the big thing left to do there is credits, e-commerce, and then all that pesky testing, all the off happy path stuff. Website also making awesome progress. It's integrated in the API key management. So now you can grab your keys out of the website and start using them with the Python library. We also have added account management. The remaining items there are polish and wallet linking and e-commerce. And then on the quantum framework, also making good progress. We have the base Python libraries available for internal testing, does all the key management stuff, and you can actually execute quantum circuits through the Python API. Now what we need to do is start working on integrating into other quantum toolkits. And the cool thing about this, like I don't think people probably understand the cool part about this. Everything we show you guys is on websites because it's like eye candy. But this Python integration is what's actually going to be game changing because developers essentially already author their code in some quantum framework. They'll just pip install Open Quantum, and without needing to change everything, without needing to leave their framework, they'll be running on free quantum computers through Open Quantum just by installing the right framework, which is really sick. All right, so let's talk about releasing. I am so not wanting to give you guys a date. And if you guys remember on the launch of 63, we put a counter up there, and then we got that massive pump up to the launch, and then everybody sold the news. So we're trying to avoid telling you guys a date, but what I will tell you guys to sort of indicate how close we are is that all three of these events will happen in the fourth quarter. We are officially in the fourth quarter right now, and so we're going to start with the private release. The private release means we're going to put the subnet live, and real quantum computers are going to be on BitTensor at that point. There will be real quantum jobs executing on real quantum computers, and the costs of those will be offset by miner emissions. We're going to launch the platform at that time, but new users aren't going to be able to execute their own jobs until they are whitelisted by us. Real QPUs will be running. The users will be hand selected by us. By the way, while we're mostly going to be focused on quantum users, if there are people in kind of the DTAO ecosystem that want early beta access, hit us up. We're only going to let a few in, but we'd be happy to have somebody in there trying, even if you don't totally know all the physics behind what's happening with executing these quantum circuits. So after we do that, and the hand selected users have gone through a round of user feedback, we're going to do a beta release. So that private release is also going to allow us to give the keys to our integration partner that will start tying it into an existing quantum developer ecosystem. The beta release will be opening it up to their community. So instead of opening it up to the entire community, we're going to let their users have access to it ahead of the entire community. That's going to give them a little bit of goodwill so they can attract users into their platform because of Open Quantum. But it's also going to give us, the ability to get a much higher set of user feedback before just broadly opening it up to the whole market and make any, fine tuning that we have to do. And then last will be the public release. The public release will have lots of traditional marketing, traditional media coverage, revenue. We're going to have booths at quantum shows talking about this stuff. Also, we'll be presenting at quantum shows talking about this stuff. And it's all coming up in Q4. So yeah, I guess if you are of the mentality of wanting to get in before it launches, I would say you probably should not wait too much longer. Okay, market. So we were calling this community. We started calling it market because as we transition from building this stuff and operating in the BitTensor community, we're now going to be talking also about engagement in the quantum community because we're getting ready to launch. And so we'll talk about quantum events, and then we'll come back and hit all the good BitTensor stuff that we usually talk about. So from a quantum events perspective, you guys might have noticed that we're sort of have started recently. We haven't posted all this stuff out socials yet, but we're starting to. So we hosted the Iterate on AI conference in Boulder. We had a bunch of CEOs and VPs from a lot of tech companies in town for this Iterate on event, and a lot of them flew out a day early and took a bunch of tours around both the quantum incubator and a bunch of quantum companies in the area. We also took them out to Elevate Quantum's Quantum Commons facility and just kind of gave them the red carpet treatment to teach them about quantum. Super exciting stuff. Everybody was like very bullish on it. I think a lot of them were pretty blown away with how far quantum has come since the last time they looked at it. We also had our man Rob out representing quantum rings at a quantum hackathon in South Carolina last weekend. It was super awesome. Hey, that's cool. They put us on as a supporter. We were very last minute to this one, so we love sponsoring hackathons. It's a great way to get in front of a lot of kids that haven't constrained their ideas of what's possible yet. We jumped in and decided to help these guys really last minute. So that's really cool that they put us on as a supporter. I didn't even notice that until right now. But yeah, great stuff, super innovative. There are a bunch of hackathons that we tend to participate in regularly, and you can rest assured that Open Quantum is going to be a big part of that, and these quantum challenges are going to be a big part of it. Imagine if you have, a room with a few hundred hackers at one of the top universities being told that they could unlock a hackathon prize of like $10,000. It's pretty insane. All right, other upcoming stuff. So we're going to go out to Chicago for an event with Qbtll, who's a cool quantum platform. You should Google him if you've never heard of them before. They're good friends of ours. They're putting on a Quantum Developers Day. We're going to sponsor that event. We're going to be out that same week at the Chicago Quantum Summit, and then jump on a plane and fly out to New York for the QEDC. That's like a big DC based organization. Uh, it's one of the biggest kind of nationwide quantum consortiums. We'll be at the annual meeting there. I'm also hosting a panel on October 30th, which is coming up really soon, with a bunch of people from the Accentures and the Deloittes and stuff like that, to sort of just talk them through what it looks like to be a consultant in the quantum ecosystem today. And then sort of one of the biggest shows, which we will be taking a booth out at, and actually, if you guys are in the Valley, it's a great event to go to if you want to get exposed to quantum, is Q2B Silicon Valley, the first week of December. And so, yeah, we'll keep you guys posted on cool news and announcements from those events. Okay, so back to the BitTensor world. One of the criticisms, which is actually a totally fair criticism, is that people have felt like we've been a little bit quiet on the socials. So with the Qubit Tensor Labs Live, what we were sort of hoping to do was, instead of these like little innocuous, vague kind of updates that like a lot of subnet operators do to kind of keep people feeling like something's going on socials, we wanted to do like much beefier, polished updates every couple weeks. And so we sort of have reduced the amount of attention that we're putting on to like, these little keep the community engaged kind of updates, and really focused in on this. We hear you though. People are saying we need more of it, and I think you guys are probably right. So we'll work on that. In fact, I've got a couple people from different teams connecting on Monday to sort of map out how we want to make sure that we give the right level of engagement there. So yeah, I just want to say we hear you. We agree. We'll do better there. Second thing is BitTensor sentiment. So we had talked about all of these posts. Well, okay, the posts on the right here are all about the validators sort of slowing down, getting stuck. We think we know what that is. We think we're fixing that. The fix is not in the Shores branch, but there is some stuff in the Shores branch, again with telemetry, etc., that's going to let us confirm, validate, or invalidate the theory for what we think is happening there. So yeah, thanks for holding us accountable to that, guys. That's totally good. And on the left side, we have the just announcement that we're getting ready for Shores. This does say the public branch was going to be 10/17, which is tomorrow. The public branch is out, so I guess we originally delayed till the 17th, but now we're ahead of schedule from the delayed schedule, I guess. And then, yeah, the live date is spot on. We don't deploy on Fridays. It ruins miners' weekends. It ruins our team's weekends. We like Mondays. So that code will ship Monday. So everybody get on it and be ready. Also, we appreciate the love. We totally feel it. Totally unexpected shout out from Const. Saying, I guess maybe we lucked out on our subnet number or something like that, and got put right in the middle of the pack of people that that he said were some of the top subnets. That's super cool. And yeah, we totally appreciate all the love from the community. You guys have been great. Not all of our employees are on the socials, but we do, take the stuff that you guys are saying and sort of aggregate it and share it out. So thanks for that. The other thing I just saw this. I actually haven't looked into it much at all, but this looks freaking awesome. So I just thought I'd put it up here and acknowledge it. But yeah, it looks like Yuma is doing some investment, and when they put together their material on investment, they talk about investing in BitTensor subnet token strategies managed by Yuma, which is cool. I think that's a smart thing. But when they put together the fund, they called it the AIQ fund, and that, without having looked a lot into the depth of this, that makes me very excited because I do see BitTensor as traditionally having the narrative of being an AI innovation space, but really there's nothing that limits that vision to AI. And with our two subnets in quantum, I feel like without looking further into this, that this is a huge shout out to the mission that we're on. That big money sees what's happening here, and man, we are just at the beginning. Like we haven't even left the runway yet. So we are so excited to have you guys all here with us on this journey as we get ready to to take off and launch.
Yeah, it's really only been like 4 months. You know, it's been lightning speed for everything between the development of an open quantum platform to all the work we've done for challenge generation and subnet management. So
Totally. Yeah. And like, I will say, like I said it, at one of our earliest things, I'm traditionally not a crypto guy, but when you look at like, I worked 25 years for big tech and people think it's cool. It moves slow, you know? I worked a startup and I thought, wow, this is crazy. It's a breakneck pace. But this decentralized innovation, man, I have never seen things move as fast as this moves. And when we start tapping into the community and not just having like our teams innovating to keep the community rolling and keep the community operating, but actually like turn that community innovation into commercial value, commercial success, revenue. I mean, shit, man, it's going to be to the moon. This is crazy.
pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you everybody for your time again today. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. And in between now and then, we'll be better on the socials and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks all.